Welcome to Paddy's Say, our regular chat with Swindon boxing trainer Paddy Fitzpatrick. Paddy, how you doing this fine day?
Good.
Paddy, let's talk about a fight that took place recently. Amir Khan against Canelo. Presumably you watched it. What were your thoughts on the fight?
Thought he was doing well. I thought the first 2 rounds he was moving along the ropes, you know, almost a bit too much. But he was still doing well. I had him winning the first probably 3 or 4 rounds. You could probably argue one either way. And by the 4th round of that, I thought he's actually, those little quick attacks that he was making Canelo slide back and give him free space. And he was managing to take centre ring and start to do his work. And I thought, if he can keep that centre ring and still do that same work, and he's got all that space behind him for when he needs it, could be onto something here. And but it was almost like taking that centre of the ring made him think that he was a little bit further ahead than he was, and he wasn't moving his feet quite as much. And Canelo, I think everyone's in agreement, took the 5th, and then in the 6th round it's all she wrote. But you got to applaud him for taking the opportunity and daring to be great. Yeah.
I mean, we knew it was a risky fight for him, but like you said, a lot of people criticise him and say, yeah, Khan's got this glass chin. And do you think that's unfair criticism?
Listen, you could be the best, and no matter what you do, and you could be a flipping saint along with it, and you're still going to get people criticise you. You know, people criticise all the time. What is he, a 2-3-time world champion? Never avoided anyone. I know people who say he avoided Kell Brook. I don't believe he avoided Kell Brook to go and fight Canelo. He just didn't take the Kell Brook fight because the Canelo one was more appealing to him. And if it was more appealing because it was more money, he's in the business. If it was the same money or less money, well then you should even tip your hat more to him because he took a more dangerous fight. So people will slag you off regardless of what you do. So I don't pay no attention to that.
Was moving up 2 weight divisions always going to be a little bit too much for him to deal with?
It's always a huge risk, especially against a dude who weighs in around $170, $175. He was probably a light heavyweight on the night, Canelo. So yeah, it probably, did it prove too much in the end? People could say it proved too much because he got knocked out. And then if you say, well, he got knocked out by Garcia and by what's his name in his first fight, people would say, that first time he lost, people would say, well, he got knocked out, he's got a glass chin. So I'm saying you can't please everyone. He was in a fight, he dared to be great, he was doing well, he got nailed, that's all she wrote. And that's the way it is. But people say, well, it was suicide doing that fight. But people said it was suicide when Muhammad Ali fought George Foreman. You go back and look at the newspaper clips. You go back and listen to the documentaries. Even people in his camp thought it was suicide. But and then when you say to people about that, they go, yeah, but Muhammad Ali was great. But we say he was great because he beat men like George Foreman. The fights that it was suicide to take in the first place. That's why we call him great. You either want to test yourself or you don't. And no one can say that Khan doesn't try to test himself. He does. And fair play to him, the next day he was brushed off and he's ready to go again. He hasn't retired and said, oh, that's it. You got to admire his balls, man. So that's the way it is.
So what's the next step for him now? What move do you think he'll make? I think he's going to step back down a few weights.
I don't think anyone knows the move he'll make. We can all guess that. Who would have thought that he would fight Canelo?
Yeah.
When that was announced, people were like, what? They couldn't believe he was fighting Canelo. So as for the next move, I think they've left him as the mandatory for Garcia. So bar Garcia fighting a rumoured fight with Mayweather in September, which was being rumoured as long back as last September when I was in Vegas. People were saying that fight was going to happen this year. People in boxing were saying that was the plan. So bar that happening, he can make Garcia have to fight him. Garcia wouldn't necessarily avoid that fight. He's beaten him once. So there's a fight he could have. He could also stay at 54 and get fights. There's fights there from at 54. So he might want to stay at 54 and try and take on a challenge there and become a champion at that weight. I think he's got a lot of options. I don't think he's damaged his marketability in that last fight.
And he clearly doesn't want to fight Kell Brook. He's made that publicly.
he's made it publicly clear. You don't know how serious that is or not, but if he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to. You can't make him.
Who wins that fight if it does ever get made? Right now, if it was made for this weekend, who would you? Where would you put your money?
If you made me bet me money, I'd probably go with Brook. I do think Brook is an excellent fighter. He's very patient. He doesn't waste a lot. He's very, very strong. He's got a lot of hand speed. He positions himself well. I do like Brook as a fighter, and I do think that he can be losing rounds against Khan, but knowing that he's putting himself in a position to get the shots that he needs a few rounds down the line. So I would favour Brook, but it'd be a hell of a fight, wouldn't it? It'd be a hell of a fight.
It'd be a good fight. I mean,
it's a fight that Khan said you don't want.
Whether it's politics, just building it up and building it up, we know this happens in boxing, or whether it is just a case that Khan isn't going to give him his shot, I don't know.
You know, it's probably a little bit, even though they haven't fought already, it's a little bit similar to George and James DeGale. It's probably a little bit similar. That fight for George and James DeGale isn't there now, and I'm sure George would like it now because James got the world title, so he'd like it now. And George has always said that fight's always there for me. I believe it possibly is. It's always has the opportunity to happen because he's beat him twice, and I'm sure James would like to level up what happened in the pros, and all the public would definitely watch it again. They both rub each other up in just the right way. So that's a fight, but it's not necessarily a fight. It's not a fight James doesn't need right now. So therefore, it's not a fight that he's going to give George right now. He's not going to give a dude he don't like something that he don't have to give him. But George could lose to Martin Murray in a few weeks' time. James could lose to Badu Jack, and that fight would still be a huge fight. You know, even though it wouldn't be for a belt or anything else, that would still be a huge fight. Still be a huge fight. But Khan and Brook is kind of the same. Khan is in DeGale's shoes. Even though he hasn't got the title, he doesn't need to fight Brook. Doesn't need to. He's a mandatory for the WBC belt at 47 pound. He doesn't need to fight Brook because he's got no other options. And he could possibly lose that fight. He could possibly go on and lose his next one, and that fight would still be there for him. Yeah. Because it'd still be a fight. Brook hasn't had the fights to make his name as a world champion. He's been a world champion, made 2 defenses against people have been, who cares? It's not his fault, that's just the way it is. And he still needs a defining fight. So even if Brook went and had a good name in his next fight, and Khan went and lost, Khan could still say, I'll have that fight now. And Brook could say no, of course, but he'd probably be foolish to, because it'd be still a big fight with a lot of money in it. So that's probably one of those fights that's still there for both men, even another 1 or 2 fights down the road.
And off the back of the Khan-Canelo fight, it looks like Golovkin's now in the picture for Canelo. What a fight that would be.
That'd be a great fight. And, it has to get made at 160. Canelo's people are saying, no, we'll only take it at 55, or you've got to drop a few pounds. They can't do that. He's the mandatory. It's not like it's an optional defence. It's not like they're giving it voluntary and they're saying, we'll let you have a go, but it's got to be at this weight. That's not the case. It's a mandatory. All he's got to do is abide by the mandatory rules, weigh in at 160 pounds. So, and there's supposedly, if it doesn't, that's got to go to purse bids if they haven't agreed by the end of this month. That's a great fight. I like that fight.
Who wins that one?
Triple G, man. I think Canelo, it's a great fight. Somebody even said to me yesterday they could fight 2 or 3 times, and they possibly could, but I just think Golovkin is a far better boxer than people give him credit for. He positions himself very well, and Canelo does punch wide, and I could just see Canelo position himself in the right place, and finding homes for those big shots, and he's a murderous puncher. He's a murderous puncher. Him and George went at it 2 different days in Big Bear, and you could just tell he had more to turn on if he wanted to, as far as power was concerned. He's a murderous puncher. So I think he's a far bigger puncher than Canelo.
Is Golovkin kind of pound for pound the best that's around at the moment?
I like Chocolito, the Roman Gonzalez. Yeah, I like him. But you know, he's fought more than men at his weight and done a bit more. And Golovkin has made a lot of defences, but he hasn't. He's kind of still waiting for that career-defining fight too.
Yeah.
He's in that position. He's getting the props because of the way he's dealing with his opponents and because he's made so many defences, but he still needs that defining fight too that he hasn't kind of had yet. Is he pound for pound? You know, I like Ward too. I think Ward's right up there, pound for pound. You got Gonzalez, you got Golovkin. I don't think it'll be long probably before Terence Crawford creeps right up to the top of that too.
Yeah,
So there's quite a few. Big fan of him. I like him. Yeah, I like him. Can punch, patient, can box, beautiful jab, can switch. You know, real great composure. Boxing's rolling right now, man.
And it'd be rude if we didn't talk about Tyson Fury. What do you make about him at the moment? Don't know what he weighs at the moment, but he's not taking training seriously, is he?
I don't know. Hey, listen, wait, how long away is that fight?
Yeah, it's got a way away. To be fair, I think it's
And when he done those press conferences, what, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So it was still 2.5 months away. So was it good that he's that far out of shape? It's not the way you'd want to see a fighter. Was it unusual? He's been that out of shape before. And you say, okay, yeah, but this is a bigger fight. It is, but it's also a guy, I think, that he's dominated before, not just beat. He dominated him. I don't know how the scorecards were close. And I see him knocking him out this time.
Really?
I see it as a far more dangerous fight, far more, but only because Klitschko will be fighting emotionally in a bad place. You know, he lost that fight clearly. He didn't want to let the right hand go. You saw him shaking the right hand, wanting to let it go, but he's so correct at what he does. He's so, you know, just this is how I fight and that's it. When he couldn't land that jab, there was no way he wanted to let go of the right hand because he knew the right hand was more of a commitment, and if he couldn't even land the jab, a shot that doesn't even disturb your stance, like why am I going to commit to that and rotate and go the whole way in the shot? So he didn't want to let it go, Round 11 come, he thought, I got no choice. He let it go and he got clipped and wobbled. And you know what, something that wasn't said on the night at all with the colour commentary, and I have no idea why, he then rammed his face into Fury's head. They were in a clinch and he rammed his face in. Now when Ortiz did that against Mayweather, everyone made a big deal of it and it was talked about for weeks. It hasn't been talked about. So you got a man who in 15 years as a pro, 16 years as a pro, 10 years as a dominant champion, has always conducted himself like a gentleman in and out of the ring. Now let's look at the extreme. Imagine he was faking it. Imagine he was really ignorant, but he only conducts himself like a gentleman in and out of the ring because he knows that's good business sense. And now let's imagine that he is that gentleman, that he conducts himself in and out because that's the way he is. Either one of them, 15 years he's been conducting himself impeccably. Then he loses his rag and rams his head into Fury's face. He lost all his composure, completely. You come out of that fight, he's going to have months where people are going, he didn't win that fight, you lost it. You know, that was your fight to win. You can go back and do that. And that's all well and good. That was kind of like when Tyson fought Holyfield. You lost that fight, Tyson. Holyfield didn't win that. You can beat him. Just take him more serious. But then you get in there and then after the first 3 rounds you think what's happening again. And I know he's banging him with the head in that Holyfield. But Tyson had a career of flipping nailing people with elbows. Breaking Franz Bota's arms near off in a clinch. So it's not like Tyson wasn't, you know, the cleanest dude around. So getting headbutted years ago, they just made him be dirty back. The composure, he almost imploded emotionally with what happened in that fight. It's one thing to have the time and for Klitschko to go back home and go, well, I got proof I was a dominant champion. I got all these belts. I beat Brewster again in a rematch. I beat everyone that I come up against. So he knows he is a dominant, will be remembered as one of the great heavyweights. He knows that. That's all well and good until you get in there and you can't land that jab again. And you still know you're the same type of fighter. that because a guy fights kind of to match his personality, and he fights very safety first. That's kind of his personality, the way he goes about everything. So he's going to get in there, and personally, if I had Fury, I'd be saying, don't even worry about the first 3 rounds. Let's give him away. Let's just smack him with jabs, bounce out of there, get awkward, shift your head. Don't let him land. Don't let him land. Now, those 3 rounds might go to Klitschko on the scorecards, but he's still going to know, because he might be coming forward and he might be trying to do the work, and Fury just acting the monkey in there, man, making the miss and dropping and bopping and slapping him with jabs. It don't matter. He's going to know I ain't landing no shots. I ain't landing my jabs. So even if they say it don't matter, you've won those 3 rounds, he's going to know I'm not comfortable. And they're going to be telling him in that corner, you got to let go of that right hand earlier. So he's going to start letting that right hand go, not because I found him with that jab, I know where he is, now let me turn it over. It's like, I can't wait till the 11th round again. I got to let it go. So then it becomes far more dangerous. But Peter Fury has a very, very good, positive, emotional effect on Tyson. And you see Tyson against Cunningham and against the other fight where he got dropped, when Peter wasn't in the corner, because he kind of just goes of his own volition. He just said, right, just let me fight. I know I'm a fighting man, just let me fight. And he makes loads of mistakes because he don't care, because he's a fighting man, and I'll get rid of him anyway. You see Peter in that corner with him. He listens, he follows instructions, and Peter always asks him to do what he knows he's capable of doing. They'll come in there with a measured plan, and if it's just to make him miss for 3 rounds and make him anxious, then he becomes far more dangerous, but he also becomes far more obvious. And it doesn't suit him to then start firing over big shots if he doesn't know where you are with that jab. And I could see Fury knocking him out in round before 7 rounds.
Really?
I could just see it happen. Now it's a far more dangerous fight. You could see they're both big men. Like Tyson says, he could hit me and knock me out. And then everyone would go, we knew Klitschko was going to do that. No one knows nothing. Klitschko got dominated in that first fight. Tyson ain't getting nowhere near the respect that he should be getting for that. It's not talked about at all. They're going to have no choice but to talk about that man after July.
Does he help himself with the way he carries himself and some of the crazy things that he says?
Well, he doesn't help making his life easier. But he hasn't, in anything that I've seen, forget what you read. There's been lots of things I've read about me that ain't true. Somebody can say what they want. This man did this, or this man said this. From what you see on video, that's now you've proof. You hear it coming from the man's mouth. He has said that he doesn't agree with this, that, and the other. You haven't seen, or I haven't seen yet, video where he says anything disparaging. So they're not necessarily what people think you should say, but they're not disparaging. Could he make life easier by saying nothing? Yeah. Does that then kind of, does he have a responsibility as the heavyweight champion of the world? Yeah. Would you say he has responsibility? But is his responsibility to conform and say what he's told? Or is his responsibility to know that no matter what I say, people will be looking up to me and it will have an effect on people who follow me as a champion? If it's the second one, surely he should be saying his truth. Because why would he get himself to a position where people say, yeah, but you have a responsibility, people are going to listen to you and start to believe what you're saying? Well, if he believes what he's saying, why shouldn't he say it? And that's not going to sit well with people, but that's the truth. Or do you get yourself into a position where then you wake up every morning and ask, what am I allowed to say today now?
Do you think we're seeing the real Tyson Fury, or do you think at home with a cup of tea he's a very different person? Is it kind of an act? Is he doing a salesman job on himself, trying to increase his stock, or is this just what he's like?
I don't know him, so I'd be ignorant to comment on that. I don't know. Luke went up and sparred with him, and I think he sparred a bit with Huey in that around 3 years ago, and they looked after them. They looked after Duke in that. Great. Peter, Tyson, Huey, They all looked after him great. Made him feel at home, made him work hard, treated him well. So I don't know. I don't know what he's like. Do I think that some of it is salesmanship? Yeah, I think some of it is, you know what, these dudes believe everything I say, so I'll just tell them believing anything, just to throw them off. You know, like what's the latest thing? He's got dropped 3 times by a light heavyweight. Yeah. Do I believe that? You know what, could happen to anyone, but do I believe it? No. But do I believe that every time he says anything, Klitschko's thinking, I have no idea. He's kind of, to Klitschko, what Ali was to Liston. Liston thought Ali is just completely crazy. I think that Klitschko thinks Fury is just completely crazy. And it's very hard to go into a fight knowing you're not in control of your own emotions and trying ultimately to control a man when you can't even control yourself. And emotionally, I don't think Klitschko can control himself around Tyson. At the press conferences, but you know he's not going to hit you in the teeth. You know you're not going to be judged as being the champion at the press conference.
Even Tyson's winning those as well, though, really, isn't he? I mean,
yeah.
I think he came out of the last one and said, yeah, you're going to beat me, you're going to get your title back. And it's like, if you're Klitschko, it's like, right, what do you say to that? It's like, well, okay.
Well, what can you say? He's been told, keep it together a bit better, you know, and so on and so forth, and that's all well and good. But he will get in the ring, and everyone that says, you know, he didn't win that last one, you lost it, and you're the champ, you've been for 10 years, and it's all good, and then go seconds out, and everyone gets out. And then you realise, it's only me stuck in the ring with that lunatic again. And then that dude is there dropping his hands and moving his head and shifting his head. And if your intention isn't necessarily to land in those first 3 rounds, have an effective defense is quite easy. It's only hard to have good defense when your intention is to be offensive straight afterwards. But how do you think that journeymen make a good career out of being journeymen? They know they're in against guys who have it all in their favour. They're on their promoter show. They're probably real high level amateurs. They're able to train all day. You know, they've got sponsorships, they've got the money. Everything's in their favour to be 100% prepared and ready for these fights. Whereas a journeyman's probably been on the hot all day, grafting, working, and then gets a phone call and has to drive in a car and drive 200-300 miles and get in the ring. So he's not going to get in there and try and have a fight every time. He's just going to get in there and mess this dude about. Test him a little bit if the guy's trying to take the mick, but ultimately keep himself safe because he could get a phone call next week. So when your intention is just to be defensive, that's not the hardest thing in the world to do. So if Fury gets in there and just thinks, I'm just going to make him miss for 3 rounds, but still slap him with a jab, still just make him miss and pop back and hit him with that, maybe snatch a 1-2 off and then move off. Emotionally, I think Klitschko will fall apart. And then you just think, when it's time then to fight, can Tyson? You know he can.
Yeah.
He is a fighting man. He comes from fighting background. He's from fighting stock. It's not will he if he has to. You know he will. Is Klitschko comfortable and composed in a fight? In a fight now, where it's coming and going? I don't think so. He's good at keeping his composure when someone's trying to attack and everything else. But how has he normally done it? Snatch a 1-2, push down, hit him with right hand left hook.
He's had it all his own way, really.
Now, as a young fighter, when I was first in the States, he was coming over, he was like far busier and far more aggressive. He'd throw 3, 4, 5 punch combinations in a lovely short hook, far more aggressive. But they were against guys that when he was hitting them, they were thinking, pulling away, and he was having his own way. But when you have a guy that's then coming in and trying to have a fight with him, then it's hold him, push him down, hold him. You can't drop your arms over the shoulder of Tyson Fury when he's taller than you. You've got to reach. So even to get yourself in a position where you can tie him up, that's a danger in itself. That's a danger in itself. When Tyson's in the changing room, I'm sure he has the positive nerves, the same as you'd want any fighter to have. But is he nervous about actually having a fight? Not the slightest. Will Klitschko go to that ring thinking, okay, I've prepared, I'm okay? Is he going to change his style completely? No. What is Tyson's style? We still don't know. So he can't change his style to face him, and his personality is his personality, and your style of fighting kind of matches up with that. If you look at every type of fighter, Tyson was a very, very aggressive individual. You kind of saw that in his fighting style. Jake LaMotta, you saw his personality in his fighting style. Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, and very, very cunning. You saw that in their fighting style. It matches up with your personality. Klitschko's personality is very prim, prop, safety first. There's a way about doing things. And I just think Tyson's all wrong for him. I think he's all wrong for most men. That doesn't mean he's going to finish undefeated. But July 9th or July 6th, whenever it is, I think he wins again. And then he'll be able to kind of go, you got no choice but to pay attention to me. I think most of the media isn't giving him no love or respect because they're hoping to Klitschko can pull it off so they can be done with him. And they're going to have to either not write about him at all or just give him his props.
He writes his own headlines. I don't know why you want to get rid of him. So,
yeah, well,
you've got everybody talking about. We're talking about him. He's, people are talking about him.
Yeah, but we're talking about him because of what he offers as a fighter, for the most part. And what he offers as a fighter is he's taken the dominant champion off his perch. He's been pretty dominant himself on the way through. We watch fighting because two men get hit. We wouldn't watch two guys miss each other. Be boring. And you only get hit in boxing when you make a mistake. So ultimately we watch two of the best guys in the world make mistakes constantly, and that's what we enjoy about it. But the two best guys in the world constantly make adjustments. Klitschko has very, very rarely had to make an adjustment because of what he brings as his physical attributes, and that he's able to, and as soon as he feels he's in a vulnerable position, tie up and get away with it, continuously get away with it, to the point that then when he does lose composure and ram his head into Tyson, nobody says nothing. What does Tyson offer? He offers what we like to see in fighting. A man that's going to get into a fight. A man that will get nailed, get dropped, get back up and go again. Straight away. Not even be hesitant. That's why we like fighting. That's why we watch it. And most of us watch it because we'd love to be able to do what they do. And we can't. We can't. So when you watch men like him doing what they're doing, you got to be in awe about it. And the things he says, are they all what I'd say myself or want to say? No, they're not. But the type of man he is, you hear a lot of positive stories about him too. Positive things he does. Really positive. A lot of people say backhanded things and wrong things about people all the time. They just say it in a smarmy way. And they get away with it. Backhanded way. He doesn't say anything in a backhanded way. He just comes out and says it. Doesn't mean I agree with everything he's been saying. But you don't have to like everything about everybody. You don't. I don't like everything about anybody. I don't like everything about me. So I definitely don't like everything about anybody else.
Well, like I said, he's got us talking, and it's great. And that's another fight that we look forward to. So we'll see whether your prediction's right. Within 7 rounds, Tyson Fury.
7, 8 rounds. I just think he gets him. I don't think that Klitschko will be able to go to 12 unless he comes out there trying to box safe. And if he does, he can't outbox Tyson Fury. He doesn't have the speed, the combinations, and the footwork to outbox him. So he's got to come and bring it. And if he comes and brings it, and Fury just makes him miss, then he's going to get anxious. And then I think he gets knocked out.
Excellent. Well, thank you as always, Paddy.
Keep smiling.
Cheers, buddy.
Peace.